So that, I think, is why, even though this book is much, much closer to nonfiction, Slaughterhouse-5, I would say, is much more fictional. Even though Slaughterhouse-5 does have a lot of inspired by real-life events of the author, anecdotes thrown in there, that conveyance of the feeling is why I would say these books read very similar. I got absorbed into the narrative of In the Time of the Butterflies in the same way that I got absorbed into Slaughterhouse-5 narrative. I'll also compare it to Roots by Alex Haley. Now, of course, Roots is about the family history of an African American. This family history was told through generations down by slaves, parent to child, until Alex himself, he was in the right age group to fight during World War II. He heard this story from the older members of his family, and he started exploring it, started looking at actual historical records, started chasing actual historical documents, and then at the end of the book he finds out he goes back to around the area in Africa where his family supposedly originally came from, and he finds a local historian there who's able to tell him, yes, here's the exact member of your family that was taken away to America, and he's able to successfully connect his American family with his African heritage. Reading that also felt really similar to reading In the Time of the Butterflies, and the author's purpose for writing that is to celebrate his family history and celebrate his heritage. Whereas in this book, I don't think Alvarez's main point was to celebrate the heritage, although there could be bits and pieces of that sprinkled in here. The main point she did directly tell us was to give a picture of what it was like to live in that time and place. And now, I cannot help but compare this to Gulag Archipelago, and I even referenced that book when I was talking about Mate's experience in La Victoria. Gulag Archipelago is, of course, the non-fictional account of Alexander Solzhenitsyn's time in a Russian gulag. One of the longest books I ever read, actually, but it's a Russian novel, so that's par for the course. And it's interesting, I'll say, to sorta examine the similarities and differences between how Trujillo ran things and how Stalin ran things, based off what we know from these two books. Stalin's Russia was a lot more locked down. The people were a lot more controlled. There was a lot more fear of speaking out. If one of your neighbors even said a word to the police, it doesn't matter whether you did it or not, the police were coming for you. Because the police didn't care whether you did it or not, they wanted to meet their arrest quota. And what is the crime that you supposedly did or might not have actually done? That crime would have been saying anything at all negative about the party or about Stalin or about Russia. Although I will grant the caveat, a lot of Gulag Archipelago was from the perspective of people who live urban.